we're going to have Pastor Mike come up, and we're going to play a fun Super Bowl game.
Challenge.
Oh, yes. We are looking for some fun. We need like any excuse we can to play games and have fun, and it's time to let loose and give. So if you're online, you're going to do the cheering because these guys here live are going to compete live for the opportunity to win the Super Bowl prize packet, which is right here. And I got my little, we're number one finger here. I got to put on here. Hold on a second. I can't do two things at once. Got to make sure I get it on the right finger, too.
Can you handle that? Do you need assistance?
There we go. All right. Here we go. We're number one. All right. Cool. Oh, so once again, how many guys in here are Bengals fans?
Woo!
All right. All right.
I'm
How many guys
today.
are Rams fans? How many guys are like, I don't care? The I don't cares win it again. So I thought
The people
maybe
who really care at home right now.
I thought maybe more people would have picked up on that. But okay.
Here.
So we're going to play a game, and in this game, we're going to draw. If you were part of entering your name in that bucket right back there. Can you guys get on the camera like that finger? It's like, anyways, in that bucket. Hello. We want you. Okay, so I'm sorry, squirrel.
I digress.
All right, so there's a bucket back there. Everyone put their name in who wanted to participate. We're going to draw 4 of those names. 2 of you guys are going to act as Bengals today. You're going to represent the Bengals.
Sorry.
2 of you guys are going to represent the Rams, and you don't get to choose your team, so it's a lot of fun. It seems more fun that way. So I'm going to draw some names. If I draw your name, you can come up, and we'll have 2 of you get on this side and 2 get on this side. You'll come around to the staircase. So here we go. Everyone, give me like some kind of a drum roll. I got to have like anticipation building here. Dina, come on down. So come around here, and there's a staircase right there.
I guess you can choose your team and however they fill up.
Okay, so you can pick then, I hear. Rams? Rams it is. We got
She's on the
our
Ram
first
side.
Ram.
Okay.
We're going to pick another Ram for this side over here. Ready?
A ram.
Where's the drum roll? Cheryl Orbase, come on down. Cheryl, where are you at? Where is Cheryl? Oh, she's in the back. Pick somebody else. Okay.
Okay, pick someone.
You guys are like, yes, there is a chance. Okay. That's so mean. What if Cheryl wanted to participate? You guys are so mean. Okay. Here we go. Yeah? Oh, here we go. Okay.
Okay.
Steve Smith. All right, Steve Smith.
Woo woo.
Come on up.
Come on
so
up.
you're a Ram. Are you okay with that? Okay.
All right.
All right. Drum roll. All right, here we go. It's Elisa Davis. Elisa Davis. You can pick a side, and you are a Bengal.
Elisa.
Pick either side. You're a Bengal.
Well, you can be a
Maybe you can barter with
You can be
Steve
a
and see if he'll
ram.
trade with you. All right.
You can be a ram.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, can she? Okay, so you're a Bengal apparently. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, here we go. Drum roll, please. Bailey. All right, Bailey. You're on this side over here.
So you know, Bailey won the challenge last year.
Oh yeah, that's true.
She was
going to
be nice to not enter this year, but I said, too bad. People have to suck it up.
Stiff competition. Okay,
That's right.
So here's how we're going to play this game. We have 5 regulation-sized footballs on both sides here. Close, almost. They are Tom Brady balls. I don't know, but every year that joke never gets old. Okay, all right. So you have 5 balls here, and there's a line on the ground there. You can see a tape line by your foot there, Steve. And so you'll stay behind that line. Make sure you're behind that tape line. And you can come over here. You don't have to be that far. Okay. And you're going to throw to Jessica's bucket. Now, here's the thing. If it bounces in and bounces out, it does not count. Okay? Just to clarify ahead of time. Don't get mad at me. I didn't make that rule. That was these people. It wasn't my fault. I'm not a bad guy, am I, Jessica? This sounded so convincing. Okay. So you're going to throw 5, and then we're going to you're a Bengal? Okay. And then we're going to let Bailey throw 2. I don't know how you guys ended up on the same side at the same team.
I butted in and I screwed it up.
Okay.
I admit
Let's do
I was
this.
wrong.
Dina, you're a Ram, right? Yeah, you and Bailey flip-flop. So you go to this side. There we go. So you're still representing the same team, but you're going to throw first, Steve. And then Bailey, you're going to throw them back. Whoever gets the most out of 5 will now advance to round 2. Are you ready? Ooh, this is a tournament.
And you have to throw overhand.
Here we go. Overhand throws.
Overhand only throws.
Here we go. Cheer Steve on if you want him to win. Here we go. You're number one.
You're number one. Woo, 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 woo. Oh, keep going. Woo, woo, woo.
Short. Oh! In and out. Oh, my goodness. Okay, we're looking for one.
Come on, Steve. Oh! This may go too long.
Wow. Okay. Bailey, if you make one of your 5, you win. Okay, Steve, don't go anywhere yet because if she doesn't make any, you're back in this thing again.
He's hunting down his football.
We have enough. We have enough to play with. If we lose a couple, we'll be okay.
It's my turn.
All right. So here we go, Bailey. You got to stand behind that black tape line back there. There you go, and then you can scoot over that way. There you go. Okay. All right. Take your best shots. Here we go. Cheer Bailey on. Oh, whoa. That was a warning shot. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Oh! Using the backstop. So Bailey wins.
Awkward.
All right. Thank you, Steve, for playing. You're a good sport.
Sorry.
Maybe next time. So Bailey, you'll hang on here because you're going to play round 2. Now it's time for Dina, and she's going to be competing against Elisa for the top spot for the Bengals. So we have 5. Do we have 5?
We need another ball.
All right, here we go. Round 2.
We need another ball.
Yeah, one of them went under the stage. So we're gonna
Okay. We got all 5. Okay, here we go. Cheer Dina on if you want her to win. Cheer her on anyways. Okay, make sure you're behind the tape line. There you go. Okay, there we go. Got to keep it regulation here. Oh, already got one. Oh, so close. In and out. That's too. I see a little help going on here by the field goal. It's weird how it moved, but okay. Like she was running. She dove for that one to catch. Just kidding. All right, so we're going to give you officially 2. Judges, are you okay with the 2 points being awarded? Yes, okay. I'm getting a thumbs up from the judges here. So
then
now
I'm a little out of left hip move too, right?
you can move your hips. That's it. You can't put it out here. All right. So Elisa is stepping up as a Bengal. You have to get at least 2 to stay in the game. Are you ready? Oh, she's getting serious. Whoa. She's rolling up her sleeves. The coat came off. All right, here we go. Oh, she starts out strong, makes the first shot. Oh, makes the second. One more to win it. Oh, in and out. Oh, no. Oh, so we have to do a tiebreaker.
It's a tie.
Tiebreaker. Okay, so Dina, you're back up. No, Bailey. Bailey, right? Who got? Okay, I'm mixed up. Dina, you're going to go next, and let's see. We're gonna do sudden death this time. We're gonna do sudden death.
I need my bucket.
So
I need my bucket.
Dina's gonna go. Oh, Dina got all serious too. Look at this. The coat came off here. Okay, so you're gonna have to hold. You're gonna have to hold your bucket up, Sandy, because we're gonna go one at a time, and you guys are gonna need them over here. Hang tight. You guys hang on to those. Here we go. We're doing sudden death. Okay, so you're gonna throw one. If you miss it, Elisa gets a chance to win it. One shot. Here we go. Oh, she's getting ready. She's got her stance, get her breathing pattern right. And she missed. Okay, Elisa, you get to throw one back if you make it. So scoot away there, Jessica. If you make this shot, you win. And we're going to keep going back and forth till the first one makes it. Elisa is the winner. All right. So, Elisa, why don't you come down on this side, and we're going to play final round, 5 footballs. You're going to throw to Jessica's. Here's 3 here. You need one more? There we go. Okay. So you're going to take 5 shots, and this is for the final. This is for the prize right here. Here we go. 1. She's got quite the aim here. Oh, 2 off the backstop. Too bad that doesn't work in football. Oh, missed that one, but close. Just grazed it. 3. Oh, man, 3. Bailey, you got some stiff competition here.
All right.
So we need to find at least 2 footballs.
There's 2 in here.
Okay, we're good. All right, here we go. So, Bailey, you've got to make at least 3 to stay in it, 4 to win it. You can scoot over here if you'd like to line up there. Here we go. Cheer her on, everybody. There's a lot on the line here. You're number one. One miss. Uh-oh. You have to make this one or it's over. The pressure is there. Oh! And she misses. Bailey, Steve, Dina, good job. You guys did an awesome job. But Elisa is the winner. Congratulations, Elisa. Here is the prize package. There we go. She's going to get a photo of you there. Oh, am I supposed to be? Okay, I get it. I just pulled off my wear number one. Here we go. Okay. All right. Thank you for being good sports, everybody. All right, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Oh, I'm going to hand it over to them. All right, guys, let's get ready for relationship rescue. Here we go.
All right. Let's go ahead and dive in. You know, before we jump into today's message, I have some good news I want to share with you guys. I like to be able to share when things are happening. If you remember, we did our Christmas offering back in end of November, December, and one of the initiatives that we were working through was to be able to give some gift cards to the schools to be able to use as needed to help out students in need and their families in need that they could award. And we were able to deliver those to Five Oaks Middle School this week. We delivered Quatamas a couple weeks ago, but we got a message that they wanted to give us. So this is the Five Oaks office staff saying thank you.
Thank you, Epic Life, for your donation of Target gift cards to support our students and their families. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you.
So cool. They died 1,000 deaths when I asked them if they would say anything on camera, like, "Oh, what? You want us to say what?" And did you guys catch the boy in the background photobombing us? He thought we were taking a picture there, and then realized and moved on. But the office staff is cool. When we come in there, they don't necessarily know us by face, but when someone said Epic Life Church, all of them were like, "Oh, Epic! Like you're the cookie people. you're the people who have been helping us out for a long time with food boxes and stuff like that." So we got quite a reputation with the school, and I think the cool thing about that is the reputation of Jesus being spread to a group of people, not only the ones in the office, but also the other faculty around the school, and of course the kids that are being the recipients of a lot of this stuff. Thank you guys again for your generosity. The results of our Christmas offering will continue to pour in, and we have some more stuff coming up that we'll be able to share with you in coming weeks. But I just want to share that stuff when it comes down the line, so you guys get to be a part of that as well. Now, we are kicking into part 2 of our relationship rescue series, and we're just going to dive right in. I said for this series that since relationships are such a big part of our life, it's kind of an integral thing. Most of our life is wrapped up in our relationships, and most of whether or not our experiences are good or bad has to do with the health of our relationships. So I thought it seems reasonable to take 4 weeks and just dive through once a week an essential skill that'll help us with relationship success. And so last week, if you'll remember, if you were with us, we talked about forgiveness. I heard a lot of feedback from some of you guys who are like, "Man, I needed that. It's right where I'm at." And I know that was a sensitive topic for some of you too, with some of the relationships that you're working through right now. But if you didn't get a chance to be here for that, you can get online on our YouTube page anytime and watch those. Those are archived there. But that was last week. Next week, don't miss next week. Next week, we're coming back. We're talking about what I think is, in a lot of ways, funny, but yet not, and that is communication. In communication, a lot gets lost in translation, and sometimes we don't know how to communicate correctly. We're going to talk next week about good communication skills and how to be able to communicate with people in relationship to cultivate healthier relationships. So don't miss that. Today, we're going to talk about another zinger, another big topic, and that is conflict resolution. We're going to talk about when you have a conflict with someone that you're in a relationship with, how do you resolve that in a healthy, productive way? And since tomorrow is Valentine's Day and this is Love Month and all that, I'm going to spend some time kind of talking from my experience with my wife. We'll be talking about our marriage as a couple in particular. So if you're a married couple, lean in. If you're in any relationship, lean in. But as I said last week, just because you might not be in a relationship right now Do not tune me out. Because everything I'm talking about is universal principles that apply to all relationships. So although I might use examples from my marriage with my wife, realize this works in every relational context. If you take these principles, they apply universally. So we're going to dive in, and we're talking today really about this idea of fighting fair, because conflict is inevitably going to rise in your relationships, because we are, after all, human. We all have different interests, different desires, different ways of doing things. And yet, when we're in a relationship with each other, if we see eye to eye, things go well. And if we don't, sometimes sparks will fly. And when it comes down to that, and it's time to fight it out, not really fight it out, but to work through the disagreement, how we fight is important. You have to fight fair in those situations. See, if you're fighting dirty, that's an unhealthy relationship. If you're fighting clean, that's a healthy relationship. Unhealthy relationships aim for victory. In an unhealthy relationship, when you're in conflict with somebody, your goal is to win. But in a healthy relationship, the goal is to resolve the conflict. Resolution is the key. And here's the thing. If you're in a relationship with somebody and one of you wins, it's a lose-lose situation. It doesn't win for anybody. And here's the funny thing is we've always got this ingrained in our mind. Our default is to win the argument. Always. That's what we want to do, to prove our point, to prove we were right, to vindicate ourselves, to defend ourselves when we feel attacked. And the funny thing is, in any relationship, if you actually succeed, it's actually unhealthy for both you and them in that relationship. And so I thought really quickly, these are just off the top of my head, some things I've been taught by wiser people than me and how to fight fair in a relationship to make sure that when we're in a disagreement with somebody, that we don't try to manipulate the situation, take advantage of the situation, or approach it in an unhealthy way. So I'm going to say these quick. They're not in the notes. If you want to write them down, you can. You've probably heard most of these before, but I just want to refresh you. These are 7 rules, and there's probably many more, but these are 7 quick rules to engage when you want to fight fair. Number 1, don't use absolutes. You always show up late. You never put down the toilet seat. Those are absolutes, okay? The truth is, number 1, it doesn't do you any good to exaggerate. And number 2, you lose credibility because you can always point out one situation, there's an absolute, always point out one situation where that's not true. Have I always been late every single time? Do you remember that time 3 years ago when you went to your mom's house? Remember how I was early and I was waiting on you? So all of a sudden now you just discredited their whole argument because they said always. It doesn't work. And throwing these exaggerated claims out that you never or you always just kind of shuts down them or makes them defensive. So don't use absolutes. Number 2, show honor. Show honor. And in some of your relationships, this may seem really difficult to accomplish. Because the person who you're in a relationship with may have been disrespectful to you. Maybe they don't deserve your respect. But here's the thing you got to understand. Respect is earned. Honor is given. And you can give honor to somebody who doesn't deserve it. There are people in my life, and there's people even in leadership, appointed leadership positions, that I will honor because of their position, but I don't necessarily think that they deserve respect. But I will honor them, and I will show them honor in the conversations. In our home, we've taught this to our girls as they're growing up. It's okay to disagree with each other, but when you have that conversation, you need to be honorable to the other person. You show honor to them when you're having that disagreement. There's a second rule. Number 3, attack the issue, not the person. Don't attack the person and say, "You're so stupid. What an idiot. I can't believe you did that." That doesn't solve anything. Don't attack the person. This is not a character assassination. When you're trying to resolve conflict, that's an effort to try and win, to try and one-up the person that you're in odds with. Okay, so when you're in a conflict with somebody, attack the issue, or rather, let's address the issue and work through the problem that we have in that situation. Number 4, don't bring up the past. Don't get historical on the person when you're, "Oh, you know what? This is the 7th time you've done this in the last 9 months. Are you keeping score?" Again, it's not a game you're trying to win. Don't keep score. This is not about keeping score. This is about trying to settle the disagreement, trying to resolve the conflict that you're in. So don't bring up the past and, "Well, that reminds me of a time when you did this," or you know, "I don't believe you because you did this before." Don't do that. That does not help. It's not productive in the situation. Number 5, tackle one issue at a time. By the way, confession. Every one of these that I'm talking about, I have violated many times before. So don't be like going hard on yourself and go, oh, I do all these. Yes, we all do all 7 of these. The question is, how good are we getting at not doing the 7 of these? But this one here, I can't tell you how many times my wife and I are working through a conflict. I'm like, oh, that reminds me of this thing that you did. And all of a sudden, we've now brought in yet another thing that she didn't even offend on right now. It's like something from the past that she's now guilty in my mind in the present for, don't bring up multiple issues. Resolve the issue at hand. Number 6, don't raise your voice. Anybody ever done that? It's somehow we think that the louder we get, the more likely we are to win the argument. If you notice that when you're talking to somebody and you're frustrated because they're not hearing your point, or they disagree with you, or they come back with another zinger, like the conversation gets louder, and then you just keep matching each other, and pretty soon you're shouting at each other. What has that ever solved? Anybody ever go like, finally, I almost blew my vocal cords out, but it finally worked, and they were like, oh, okay. It doesn't work that way. You're not solving any problems, so don't raise your voice. Again, that shows honor in the way your tone of your voice is when you're talking to them. And the last one is, don't use sarcasm. Don't use sarcasm. Oh, aren't you special? Look what you did. You're such a great parent. Like that. You're not saying you're a great parent, you're special. You're saying the opposite. You're using sarcasm. And when, again, has sarcasm in any conflict ever helped you? And it's so funny. These are easy, and yet we all offend in these one way or another along the path to trying to resolve conflict. And it really fights against us to try and solve the problem. I'm going to share with you as we get started, and this is in your notes, 2 root causes of conflict. And if you know these things, it can help you be aware in future conflict resolution. And here in the first one, I want you to evaluate which one of these you struggle the most with as I'm talking about them. Here's the first one: unmet expectations. This is huge. In a relationship, and again, I'm going to use the marriage example, but you guys, this applies to any kind of relationship that you're in, that if you expected something from your boss or your neighbor, or maybe your neighbor is like, there's an expectation you don't park on the street in front of my house on trash day. I got nowhere to put my trash. So unmet expectations, this works in all relationships, but I want to talk about my wife and I. So when we got married 21 years ago, we both came in with a set of expectations, excuse me, that we didn't know each other had. I'm going to put a little cough drop in my mouth here. And one of the ones that my wife had growing up in her home was that when it's time to go to bed at night, the man of the house goes around and battens down the hatches to make sure all the windows are locked and closed, the doors and all that stuff, all the lights are out, last one up, to make sure the house is safe, to protect the family. I didn't get the memo in my house. My dad may have done this, but I wasn't consciously aware of that. I didn't know that was my new job as the husband in the house. And so there was many times that we go to bed, we're laying in bed, just kind of settling down, and I'm getting a little bit drowsy. And my wife was like, honey, did you check the doors to see if they're locked? I'm like, no. But I'm thinking in my mind, why are you asking me? If you thought of it, go do it. Why are you asking me? And then there would be we kind of go back and forth. I'm like, I'm just settling in. And she's like, that's okay, I'll get up and do it. Oh my goodness. So then you're like the bad guy. It's like, no, I'll get it. I'll take care of it. I can't tell you how many times, and this was not intentional on her part, but it felt like it was a conspiracy. In the middle of the night, 1 a.m., honey, did you make sure the garage door was closed? I'm like, why are you asking me that at 1 a.m.? And after a little conversation, I get up and I'd have to go do the check of the house, because if I couldn't remember and tell her, honestly, I remember checking that, then I had to go check. And there was a couple of times where the garage door was wide open in the summertime. We opened it up to let the heat out or whatever. And so, come on in, we're open. But I didn't know that was my job. But over the course of time, I learned that was a responsibility of my wife, an expectation she had. So I gladly owned that. Once I realized that was an expectation she had, I didn't have a problem doing it. It was a lot easier for me. And when she wakes up, she's awake for another hour or two. I will go back, hit the pillow, and be snoring in a minute. So it's not a big deal. No sweat off my back. I'll take care of that. But we have these things from time to time that come up in our relationships where one person has a certain set of expectations. The other person has an entirely different set of expectations, and we come into whatever agreement or whatever we're trying to do together, not realizing that, and then we butt heads because all of a sudden we realize you have a different plan than I have, and your plan's wrong. And so that's unmet expectations. Second one is self-centeredness. This is a big one. I see this as a pastor in all the years that I've counseled people who are struggling in relationships, and I counsel them in what they're going through. Almost inevitably, every single time, in the first couple minutes, what will come up is the obvious self-centeredness of both people in the relationship and the desire to make sure I'm heard, to get my way, to make sure I'm not a doormat, to make sure my preferences are met. That is most often, and I'll say in my relationship with my wife, most of our conflict comes from usually me having a self-centered agenda of what needs to happen in this relationship. And so if this is you in your relationship, you've got to be aware of that and realize that it's not about just thinking of your own needs. It's about thinking of the other person's needs as well. The author James in the New Testament, this is in your notes, says, "What causes fights and quarrels among you?" What causes those? "Don't they come from your desires that battle within you?" I think he's giving a question, but really he's saying they come from your desires that battle within you. The Bible describes our desires as the flesh, the fleshly side of our life, to get our own way, the indulgence that we always want. I think of someone who's on a diet, and then there's a piece of chocolate cake up on that's flesh. I want that. Like you're drooling, like that's the flesh side, right? This craving for something you don't really actually physically need, but your mind tells you, take this, it's going to be good if you do. And there's always something in our life that competes with our spouse, because if we give them their way, we don't get our way. And we have this self-centered attitude in our relationships. So I want you quickly, as we move on, we're going to go into the next section of the notes, but I want you to quickly assess which of these two causes the most conflict in your relationships. The people that you're in relationship with, which one of those do you struggle the most with? Because I want you, as you go out this week, and you approach a relational situation where conflict is potential or a conflict arises, to be aware your go-to in this situation is to make sure your way is covered or to meet your expectations. Or maybe that's why you're frustrated with them. And maybe if you pause long enough and stated your expectations to them and said, what were your expectations? You guys might be able to resolve it without any conflict ever happening. So that's really important. So here's what I want you to do before we dive into this next section is I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, this message is for you. This message is for you. Do it now. If you're online, get on the chat. This message is for you. Now, if someone just said this message is for you to you, I want you to turn to them and say, I was just about to say the same thing. So do that now. This message is for all of us. So to resolve conflict, I'm going to share with you 3 very simple tactics that can have a profound and extraordinary result and to make your relationships transformative if you'll listen to them. They're simple to talk about. They're hard to live out. So be aware of that. Easy to comprehend, easy to grasp your mind around them, hard to live out. But if you can do it, it'll transform your relationships. So decide in advance to make these choices in your relationships to resolve conflict. Here's number 1 in your notes. Number 1, I will respond and not react. I will respond and not react. I will respond in the Spirit, which is the opposite of the flesh. It's God's Spirit in you. I will respond in the Spirit rather than reacting in the flesh. I will let the Spirit lead me in response rather than reacting with how I feel. And that is kind of the tendency. I got this cough drop in my mouth. It's super powerful. And my cheek is actually going numb over here. I'm just like almost going to start slurring my words. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Romans 12:21 rather, the Apostle Paul writes this as he's writing to the church in ancient Rome. He says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. It's interesting in a relationship, because we have unmet expectations, because we have self-centered motives and desires, that when someone goes up against those two things, we feel attacked. And what usually happens when we feel attacked is we lash back out. We go back at them. We criticize them. We got to one-up them. We got to show how they were wrong and we were right in the situation. And once again, I'm just going to point out the obvious. In what relational context in your life has criticizing the person you're at conflict with ever solved the issue? Your boss comes to you and like, I told you I wanted you to get that done yesterday. Why didn't you do it? And maybe he thought he had told you, but he didn't. You're like, you don't ever tell me anything. Or you're such a bad boss. Did that ever help the situation? Oh, man, you're right. I apologize. That doesn't happen. So why is it we got it in our heads that the first thing we should do is attack them if we feel attacked? What if we paused long enough and instead of reacting out of emotions, we responded in the Spirit? We thought, what is the most productive way to solve this problem? What if I saw them as a good-willed person, and instead of reacting to them, I responded with love and said, hey, that felt a little bit bitey. That felt a little bit snappy. Did I say something to offend you? Did I hurt you in some way? Have I wronged you? What if you got to the bottom of it that way with no emotion involved in a logical way, and you're talking to each other with honor, not raising voices, those things we talked about earlier? What would the result be in the end if you were able to tackle it that direction instead? So don't act in the flesh, but respond in the Spirit. Here's the second one. I will focus on the good and not the bad. I will focus on the good and not the bad. The author Paul, as he's writing to the church in ancient Philippi, writes these words about how we direct our thoughts towards good. He says this, if you want to follow along in your notes. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, and whatever is admirable. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. I love what he says there. We should be thinking about the good things, not the bad things. Have you heard it said before, what we focus on expands? If you focus on something long enough, it expands. It gets larger in your life. And what happens a lot of times is that instead of pointing out the good in people, we're pointing out the bad, and we're always picking at them for the things they're doing wrong. So as we do that, the more and more we do that, the more those things become magnified in our lives. And all of a sudden, if you ask someone about someone that they have a problem with, tell me some good things about them, they have to go, well, they didn't make me mad yesterday. Like, that's their best. I mean, we can't even think of anything good in the moment. We've done that with our kids before. Like, say something nice about your sister. Well, some kind of a thing comes out. Like, that was a backhanded insult. That was not a compliment. What if we actually paused and focused longer on the things that are positive rather than the negatives in their life? I want to kind of use couples again in context here for a moment. We have a need in our relationships to focus on the good and not the bad. And if you remember, if you're married or you're in a relationship, you remember why you were attracted to the person in the first place. There is a lot of good qualities, a lot of good traits. You didn't say you're the one. You didn't stand before the altar and say, till death do us part, for better or for worse, because you thought you were going to wing it and hope that's true. You believed that when you said it. So what happened to all those good things? They're still there. They never went away. But we take our spouse and we expect them to be able to meet all of our unmet expectations, all of our needs in our life. Friends, not one person on this planet can meet your needs 100%. The only person who can do that is God. And yet we put that burden on our spouse. You never do this, and you always miss this, and we always have they may be good in so many other areas, but we focus on the negative. It's like they have 80% of it right and 20% of it wrong, and we have these 20% of unmet expectations or needs in our life that we want fulfilled. We long for them to be fulfilled. And so we see someone else outside of our marriage, we look at them, we're like, they've got what I need, and we leave the 80% for the 20%. How sad that is, and soon realize how good we had it and how bad we have it now because we left what was good searching for something that was perfect. And you're never going to find that. Have grace in your relationship with your spouse. I will focus on the good and not the bad. Here, by the way, if you're married, whether you're in a rocky relationship right now or you're in a good relationship, I want you this week to, this is a quick assignment, write down 10 things, the top 10 things you love about them. Write that down. And then put that list somewhere and every day review it to remind yourself of the good things, not the bad things. Here's the last thing we're going to talk about. So we talked about responding and not reacting. We talked about focusing on the good and not the bad. Last thing we're going to hit today is I will talk and not walk. I will talk and not walk. What I'm talking about here is when conflict arises, some people are runners. Run from the conflict. Get away from it as quick as you can. We have a saying on our staff team here, run to conflict. Run to conflict. Don't let it fester. Deal with it now. Don't let it build up. Don't sweep it under the mat. So when you're in conflict with somebody, you've got to talk it out. You've got to talk it through. And a lot of times those conversations can be uncomfortable and difficult and painful, but you have to have them. Don't run for the conflict. The author Paul says this, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. Do not give the devil a foothold. What's he saying there? Is he saying that if it's 5 o'clock and the sun sets at 5:15, you got 15 minutes to settle the conflict? If he's saying you live in Alaska and it's summertime and the sun isn't setting today, you got some time to let it fester? Okay, do you understand? He's not talking literal here. He's saying don't wait, solve it, get it taken care of now. Now, early on in our relationship with my wife and I always wanted to talk things out. I never wanted things to fester. I was really good at that. And so when we got into a conflict, I was like sticking it until it's over. And my wife, she didn't like that. She wanted to back off, think about it, reflect on it, like process. I don't want any process time. Let's just solve this thing. So she would pull away, especially if I had made her angry, she'd go away. And my wife, sometimes to get away from me, she'd go into the bedroom and lock the door. And I'm wise enough. I mean, I've been around the block enough to know what the right thing to do is in that situation. You reach up above the door and there's a key in there and you put it in there, and I would follow her in. That's obviously the right thing to do, right? I learned really quickly, didn't really pan out for me. And then she'd run into the bathroom and I'd do the same thing. It's like she couldn't hide from me. And she's like all worked up because all of this is there. And I'm like, let's solve this. She's like, I want to punch you in the face right now. Why would I want to solve this? Not really, but she needed time to process it and to relax and let her emotions settle down so we could have a good, healthy, productive conversation. So I learned over time, you do have to wait a little bit. Give yourself some time to cool off and think it through before you have the conversation. But I will walk and not talk. Another thing that we said in our house, and I encourage you, if you are married, that this word is outlawed in your house. It's the D word. We never, in 21 years of marriage, have ever thrown out the D word. Divorce. Never has it been an option. It's never come up in our arguments. It's never come up as something we would entertain or toy with. Divorce never came up because we said at the altar, we told ourselves before we got married, till death do us part, and we're not going to run from that. We're going to stick it out till our dying breath. And we're going to be in that marriage, and we're going to work on it hard to make sure it's good. It's been one of the hardest relationships in my life to work through. And some conflict is really frustrating to try and work it through, mostly because I've got self-centered thoughts and ideas in my mind and unmet expectations. The thing is that we've stuck it out through these years, and we've learned that you talk it through, you work it out. And sometimes you don't solve it all in one conversation. Sometimes you have to come back around to it. But if you talk it out and then work out what you talked through, then you can work out those relationships and bring back health in them. I want to go back to that last phrase, verse 27 in your notes. He says, you want to not let the sun go down while you're still angry because you don't want to give the devil a foothold. Satan is looking for nothing more than to get a foothold in your life. He wants to build a stronghold, a little base of operation where he can work on you and try to manipulate you and try to lie to you and cause you to believe his lies are the truth when in fact they are opposite of following God. He wants to do that in your relationships more than anything because he knows your relationships are such a huge, vital part of our lives. God made us as relational creatures. He made us to be in community. And if he can sabotage our relationships, he's got us. Don't let a foothold get in the place in your marriage, in your relationship with your friends, with your neighbors, with your boss, with your siblings, with your mom or dad. Don't let the devil get a foothold. You guys know what that is, right? When I was in high school, I have two brothers, one who's 2.5 years younger than me, one who's 1.5 years older than me. And me and my younger brother would often get at odds with our older brother. We'd get in a little bit of a fight. And then there would be lots of anger and pushing and shoving. And then my brother and I, we would retreat to the bathroom and lock the door. Kind of like, my wife trying to get away. We would lock the door. And here's the thing. We knew this, that if he would try to get his foot in. If he got his foot in the door, he might overpower us. But if we got the door closed and locked, and we had already hit the keys, so he couldn't get in, we knew we were safe. And so we would lock the door. And then what are you going to do, you and your other high school brother in the bathroom hanging out for a while? So one time I remember our bathroom butted up against our driveway, and we decided there was a little window in the shower, like a little one, and we were both weaseling our way out when Mom drove into the driveway, and we're like, "Hi, Mom." She's like, "What are you doing crawling out of the window?" But don't let the devil get a foothold in your life. Make sure that you keep that door shut to him. And the way you do that is don't let the sun go down while you're angry. Get in there and talk it out. Don't run from conflict. Run to it. In Hollywood, you'll see stuff every now and then in the media about a well-known couple splitting up. And they've always they go to the courts, the journalists go to the courts, and they have a little document on there, and they always go, they cited irreconcilable differences. I don't know if I've ever seen another reason, there maybe has been, but why a Hollywood couple has gotten divorced. Irreconcilable differences. Today's title is Reconcilable Differences, because we can reconcile any differences we have in our relationships with God on our side, working things out in a healthy, productive manner like Scripture leads us and teaches us to do. And I want to encourage you guys to do that. So the next time you're faced with a conflict, reflect on the two causes. Unmet expectations. Don't lose these, guys. These are gold. If you'll remember these, keep these conscious in your mind this week. Unmet expectations and self-centeredness. And if you can keep those front of mind the next time you're getting into a place where a conflict might arise, and you put yourself in check and you stop and go, am I possibly upset right now because I have these unset expectations that they are unaware of, or maybe vice versa? Maybe we should talk this out and find out if that's the case. And then also, am I getting worked up right now? Am I getting defensive, or am I ready to criticize and lash out because I have a self-centered desire that is making me feel under attack because someone is pulling that desire away? I don't get the opportunity to have that desire present in my life. And so my response right now is to attack, for self-preservation, to save my self-centered desires. And if you come at your conflict with those two things in mind, just from the get-go, you are in such a good place to resolve conflict. And then the three things that we talked about today. I will respond and not react. Don't respond in the flesh with your emotions. React with emotions from the flesh, but instead respond in the Spirit. Let God's Spirit guide you in a logical, loving, caring way. Because obviously, if you're in the relationship, you care about the person. So you work it out in a logical, loving, caring way and resolve the conflict from that perspective. And the second thing is, I will focus on the good and not the bad. Remember, the more we focus on something, the more it expands in our life. I think when I was in high school, in drafting class, one of our assignments was to do a 2-point perspective. Have you guys ever seen those? There's 2 points. It's kind of like one point would be like railroad tracks. If you're standing on the railroad tracks, they're like 6 feet wide. And if you look off in the distance, they almost seem like they come together and touch. Because the further off they are, the more they look like they're shrinking. And if your train was on those tracks further off, you're just a dot. But as it gets close to you, it expands. It gets bigger. It magnifies. And a lot of times, I think, when it comes to our relationships, we so focus on the negative that it was off in the distance. It was not a big deal, but we focused on it so long, it got closer and closer and bigger and bigger. Pretty soon, it's so big we can't even see the positives. So we need to make sure we focus on the good and not the bad. Write that list of top 10s. Even if it's your boss, you're like, I don't care about him. I'm stuck with him. I can't do anything about that. Think of 10 things about your boss before you go back to work tomorrow that you think are positive attributes. And then, here's a big step. Tell him thank you for one of them. Thank you that you always get me the projects on time. Thank you that you give me vacation time. You're pretty flexible with that. You know, you're rude, but don't say that. But there's always some good things that you can point out and see how that'll change that relationship. And the last thing is, I will talk and not walk. When it comes to relational conflict, are you a runner? Do you want to brush it under the carpet? Get away from it? You got to be willing to talk it out. And that doesn't mean fight it out. It doesn't mean you're like, oh no, I don't run. I get my fists clenched. No. That's not what we're talking about here. Let your guard down. Be vulnerable and talk it out with them. I want to take a look at the next steps as we wrap up today. First one is, today I'm making a first-time decision to follow Jesus, and perhaps the greatest relationship in your life that you can reconcile is your relationship to God. And all you do is you accept God into your life. That's how you reconcile that relationship. It's a free gift. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to do anything for it. But if you accept God into your life, it says he will enter into your life, and you'll have a relationship with him. I'm going to talk to you a moment later about that, but I want to move on to the second one here. Is I choose to reconcile my relationship with, and there's a spot for you to put the name of someone that you're going to reconcile a relationship with this week. Someone that there's been some conflict. And you take these things as your textbook and you apply them as you resolve that conflict. And then the third one, next time I'm faced with a conflict, I will practice, and it's an opportunity to fill in the blank of one of these three areas that you want to get better at. The first one, of course, is that I will respond and not react. Then I will focus on the good, not the bad, or I will talk and not walk. What's the one of those three? The next time you're faced with a conflict, whether it's this week, whether it's next week, whether it's next month, doesn't matter. The next time I'm faced with a conflict, I will practice, and then you fill in the blank with which one you're going to work hard to practice. Last one is I will memorize Ephesians 4:26-27. What a great reminder. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. Memorize that. Remind yourself of that. So when you get into conflict in the future, the Spirit, if you're responding and not reacting, will bring that to your mind and remind you the fact that, oh, I need to pause and attack this conflict constructively with love. And so I'm going to apply that to my situation. So what if you are tuning in online or you're here with us live and you've never made a decision to follow Jesus as your forgiver and your leader? That's the right relationship I would focus on today more than any other one, because that decision over any other decision will be the greatest decision that you've made. And if you choose to do that today, see, we have been at odds with God our whole life because the Scripture teaches us that we are born in the flesh. We have fleshly desires. From our birth, we learn how to get our own way. And so our nature, our sin nature, is at odds with God's. And Scripture tells us that God cannot be in relationship with us because he cannot be in the presence of our sin. But God provided a loophole and out. And he reconciled a relationship with us by sending his son Jesus over 2,000 years ago to die on the cross for our sins, because he paid the penalty, the debt for all the things we've done wrong so that we could have a relationship with him. The past things we've done, the present stuff, and also the future. Everything we've ever done or ever will do has been forgiven, has been reconciled with God because of what Jesus did for us. But there is a catch. You have to accept it. If I said this is a gift to you today, this gift does you nothing unless you receive it. And if you want Jesus to be in your life, you have to receive him into your life. And so I'm going to say a prayer here in just a moment where I'll invite you, give you an opportunity to invite God into your life, to say, I don't have it all figured out. I know I'm going to make mistakes. I'm a bonehead like everybody else. But I trust you today. I surrender myself to you. And as best as I know how, from this day forward, I'm giving myself to you. Would you pray with me? Dear Jesus, thank you for saving me. I believe in you, your life, your death on the cross, and your resurrection. Thank you for the work you did through your death on the cross and the resurrection that allowed me to have forgiveness of my sins, to reconcile a relationship with you. So today, God, I ask you, would you forgive me of my sins, my brokenness, all my screw-ups? Come into my life, fill me with your Spirit, lead me, and teach me to follow you. I ask this in your name. And then for everybody this morning, God, I just pray that you would help us to view conflict from a different perspective after this morning. That every time we're ready to go into one of those situations where conflict might arise, that we remember what we were taught today, we remember what we talked about, that we would exercise healthy conflict resolution in our relationships, and we would see, even this week, improvements because of that. God, give us the strength and the humility we need to be able to do just that. We love you, and we thank you for loving us. And in your name we pray. Amen. Before Jessica comes up, just really quickly, if you did check that box on the card today or online, if you checked that box on the connection form that you made a decision to follow Jesus, just make sure you get your email to us on there, because we would love to send you some information to partner with you. I tell you, congratulations. There is no better decision you've ever could make in your life, and God is going to do great things in you. So that's what I want to share with you today. Thank you.